Hi, I'm Tricia Shari, and this is Backyard Basics. And today we're here in my backyard at Lake Austin Spa Resort. And there comes a time when all gardeners need to give their plants a little extra nutrition. And one of the ways I like to do that that's very inexpensive is to make your own fertilizer by making a compost tea or a nutrient tea. And it's pretty simple. Just take a good quality manure compost, put it in a bucket, a 5-gallon bucket, and cover it with water, preferably rainwater or a water that doesn't have chlorine. And then you can just stir it a couple of times a day to introduce air into it. You could also do the same thing with earthworm castings and make an excellent fertilizer that way too. You can also add coffee grounds, tea grounds to that same mix and give your plants the nutrients from those, because coffee grounds are high in nitrogen, so that's a good drink for your plants. Now I let it sit for a day or two, and then the compost will settle to the bottom, so I strain the liquid off the top, dilute it, and then put just a little bit around the base of each plant. Now here's another way you could do this. To make it a little easier to use an old pillowcase and put your compost in the pillowcase, and then just tie that up and tie it to the handle of the bucket. And then that way it acts like a giant tea bag. You could pull that out and not have to worry about straining that before you put it in the garden. Now this is not true aerobic compost tea, so this is not something I would put directly on the foliage of the plants. This is more as a root fertilizer, so I put it toward the base of the plant. Now I have my plants mulched with compost and then a shredded hardwood mulch. So as you're putting that nutrient on the plant, sometimes it's hard to get that right down through the mulch. So I bury pots in the ground, smaller pots like a 1-quart pot for the smaller plants, or a gallon pot for larger plants like tomatoes. And you can put 1 pot between 2 plants or even 3 plants. And as long as it's between 12 to 18 inches from the root zone of the plant, that fertilizer is going to leach out into the root zone of the plant. And it's interesting, when I've pulled these pots up and the plants up after the garden season is over, I see lots of roots just really around those pots where they've been going for the nutrients. You can use those same pots for putting kelp meal, cottonseed meal, Epsom salts, just giving your plants a little bit of extra nutrition in the pots, and then put a water hose in and give the plants a drench of good fertilizer. Add things like fish emulsion, Super Thrive, any of those kinds of extra nutrients to the compost tea, and you can really give your plants a balanced and healthy drink. Now this fertilizing can be done as often as the plants really look like they need a push, and I tend to use this about every 2 weeks when plants are just getting started, and maybe once a month as plants become more established in the garden. It works very well. And then once you finish with that compost, you can usually rebrew it a second time, and then that compost can just go around the base of your plants, add it to your compost pile, and so it's not wasted, but you've gotten a lot of mileage out of that shovelful of compost. This is a great way to feed your plants. For Backyard Basics, I'm Tricia Shari. Thanks for joining us.